proud member of Vocal New York. Vocal New York stands for Voices of Community Activists and Leaders. Vocal New York is a statewide grassroots organization that's primarily made up of black people who deal with HIV/AIDS, hepatitis C, the war on drugs, which is actually a war on people, mass incarceration, and homelessness. Vocal, in its short life, we've only been around we have not yet been around 20 years. We have 18 legislative wins. We not only agitate, but we legislate. We have legislation that we've won on both the state and local level. On the local level, most recently we got the Ban the Box, which is also called the Fair Chance Act, to give people who are formerly our returning citizens a chance at housing and employment. Because when you have that box, it's another hindrance to keep you from getting where you go. So now we've got that done in New York City. Actually, and the president issued that proclamation for the federal government the very next week. Another thing that we got that was very important, that was very personal to me, was the 30% rent cap. Before the 30% rent cap paid, because I have AIDS and I'm living in supportive housing, I had to pay 70% of my disability for rent. There was a loophole in the law that did not protect people who got SSI and SSD. So we went to Albany, we got that, and as of April 1st, 2014, 14,000 other people wouldn't have to go with the nightmare of eviction that I went through. But because I went through that, I was able to speak truth to power, and to let people know that they paid more for me to get evicted than they would have paid if they had kept me in my apartment. This hurt me to the point that I said it's just not right. So I was proud to be a part of that. Most recently, I was arrested along with 5 other people in Albany as we were reading the 100,000 names of those who had died of AIDS due to government inaction. We were there we occupied the office outside of the governor's office, and we said we're going to do this for 24 hours. The marshals came and said, if you don't stop reading, we're going to arrest you. We kept reading, we got arrested, they released us, we came back the next day because the governor had promised $200 million on last World AIDS Day. Got the budget, nothing. The budget, nothing. We did press conferences, we did demonstrations, we did all the things that we're supposed to do. So our last thing was to have this sit-in. They released us the next day. We still didn't get anything. However, 2 days before Pride, the governor came through with the money. So one thing about Vocal New York is that we go hard. That's what my mentor says. We go hard. We're serious. We are the people for whom we advocate. So that is our power. We are the people for whom we advocate. So my pronoun, I'm also with the Unity Fellowship Church movement, which is a social justice movement that was founded 34 years ago to deal with people who had HIV and AIDS who were shunned and turned out of their churches. So activism, my spirituality is informed, my activism is informed by my spirituality. It comes from a place of righteous indignation. My pronoun preferences are they and them. This is my way of challenging the dominant narrative. And I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to make reference to that a few more times as we go on the dominant narrative. So, on February 4th, 2002, I had a nervous breakdown. I couldn't get out of my bed for 2 days. I got out of bed just because I didn't want to soil my clothing. My cats were the only thing that got me through. I had 3 cats. Alexander, the boy, would lay on my chest vertically. Rebecca, the girl who didn't want to be outdone, would lay across this way. And the baby, Agape, would lay on my shoulder here. But the love, the unconditional love they gave me, got me through. It took me 9 months to get out of my apartment. When I finally made it to St. Vincent's, she said, you have major depressive disorder. And I thought, oh, this lead weight curtain that was on me lifted enough to know there's nothing wrong with me. But the dominant narrative kept me in that bondage for 50 years. The dominant narrative is something that's so pervasive that we're all affected by that we don't even know because it's like oxygen. The dominant narrative. So I really want to talk about the dominant narrative and how, if we are going, in order to become the people we need to do, we have to understand what the dominant narrative is and rewrite it. One of my ways is that they and them. I'm not a he, I'm not a she. Do not box me in. I'm not either or, I am me. So, the dominant narrative. What do structural oppression, white supremacy, and the dominant narrative have in common? How are they related? Or are they related?
I believe so.
Okay, what is the dominant narrative? Let's start with that. And let me give you an example. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Has anybody ever heard that?
Yes.
Sounds very good, doesn't it? A rising tide lifts all boats. You ever heard that?
No.
Sounds real good. Never heard that one.
That
Okay, very good, very good. I'm just giving examples, just to kind of make you think. Justice is blind.
Yes.
Have you now? What are some that you've heard that may be so innocuous that you don't even think about it, but things that you've heard that you take as fact?
Put your big curl panties on.
Very good. And what does that mean?
That means suck it up.
Very good. Okay, that's excellent. Yes.
Oh.
No, just another example, just to give you an idea. And obviously, that's something that affected you, didn't it? Because you remember it.
All day.
Yes, yes. You see that? Okay, very good.
No, not only that, it hurt my feelings because I don't wear panties, first of all.
On the same vein, suck it up.
Right.
That's those are aspects of the dominant narrative. Everything in this country is built on a dominant narrative that was not written about us. It was not written with us in mind. Think about that. Now, pull yourself up by your bootstraps assumes what?
Do you have boots?
That you have boots.
Right.
But it sounds good and say, oh yeah, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. A rising tide lifts all boats. What's wrong with that?
Gotta have a boat.
I'm not on a boat.
Hey, if you don't got a boat, then rising tide ain't gonna do for you.
That's right.
And justice is blind. Well, we know that's a lie from the pit of hell every day. That's a day. But this is the dominant narrative that pervades everything. So now, we have structural oppression, white supremacy, and the dominant narrative. How do these things interact?
Power. It's all about power.
No, it's right. Unpack that for me. It's about power. How?
You look at the dominant narrative on top.
Okay.
Take it
Okay.
to the top.
Okay.
White supremacy, better than the others.
Okay.
You know, structural oppression. Again, we're talking about dominant and submissive.
Right. So the dominant narrative. A narrative is what? A narrative is what? It's a
Narration
It's
is
a
something.
story.
Right.
The narrative is a story that was written by somebody, right?
Right.
It's written by somebody. Keep that in mind. It's written by somebody. So the dominant narrative is the basis for this, which is the basis for that.
Mm-hmm.
Structural oppression is very interesting because structural oppression is something that we all deal with all the time. There are three types of structural oppression: personal, individual, and cultural. I suffered under the personal because I thought that, because I had depression, I had been in denial all these years, about 50 years of depression. I thought that men don't get depressed. That was dominant narrative. Black people don't get depressed, dominant narrative. And Christians certainly don't get depressed, because if you're a Christian and you get depressed, something is wrong with you. I oppressed myself by thinking that something is wrong with me. The church oppressed me by saying there's something that if you're depressed, you're not praying right. And culturally, black people don't get depression. But because of that, it took me to have a nervous breakdown in order to figure out that black people have mental illness. That is something that is very taboo. We can have all other kinds of things. I could stand up before you and say proudly that I'm HIV positive, I have AIDS, but it took me until last year to actually even liberate myself enough to come through that. It's like every time I do it, it's good for me because it helps me to come to grips with it, because what I'm doing is freeing somebody else who's going through the same thing.
Type of bondage.
And I realize that it's incumbent upon me, no matter how much it hurts, because every time it hurts, it makes me strong, because somebody needs to hear that.
That's right.
So I want us to look at the first thing we need to know before we start thinking about how we're going to organize people is how we think about ourselves. So we're going to do a little exercise. Let's think about these two words. Selfishness, selflessness. Give me a word that describes selfishness, someone, please.
Vanity.
Somebody who's selfish.
Possessive.
Okay. Stingy.
Uncaring.
Narcissist.
Donald Trump.
That's exactly what.
Someone on the live feed said spiteful. Thanks, Yolanda.
Okay, I think we have an idea of what selfishness is. What is selflessness? Give me an example of that.
Caring.
Putting someone before your own needs.
Sharing.
Caring.
Giving.
Self-denial.
Thoughtfulness.
Thoughtfulness.
Yeah.
Okay. How so?
Considering others, like considering.
Okay. Others before self.
Oh, okay.
Others before self. How about burnt out?
Who?
Burned out.
Burnt out.
Burnt out. Because you. Yeah.
You've done so much.
Sacrifice.
Ah.
It was Yolanda.
Thanks, Yolanda.
People are thanking you, Yolanda.
Okay. Okay. I think we have an idea now. Okay. Who does anyone think that any of these are good traits?
Yeah, but it can also be enabling because you could get taken advantage of.
Okay, all right, okay. So, but does anybody think that? Okay, of course, does anybody else think anything else? That's a trait. That's a good point. What do you think, Pat?
About those being good traits?
Right. No. What do you? Do you think any of these are good traits?
Yes.
Which one?
As a collective, they're all good traits.
Okay.
Yeah.
All of these are good traits.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Except burned out.
No.
Okay.
I apologize. I beg to differ about the burnout due to what I just heard Reginald say. It makes you reflect, and it seems like that at that particular time, everything comes crashing down, and then you can step back and find out what's going on with you, and what the trigger was, and how you can overpower it, move on, collect, and empower.
Okay. All right. And Pat. Okay. It's interesting that you would say that. I have a question for you. Was Jesus selfless?
Yes, he was.
Absolutely not. He said, think of me when you eat and drink. He asked a lot. He asked Peter, Andrew, James, and John, follow me, and I will make you fishers of people. How much responsibility are you taking for the people that you're leading? I had a hard time dealing with power because of the dominant narrative. But the dominant narrative taught me that power is bad. Power is bad because power had been used badly against me. But I had to come to the realization that, well, wait a minute. When I'm that, then the dominant narrative wants me to do that so that they continue to use power. But then I really realized that what I was afraid of was the responsibility for being a leader. Because people follow me. And because people follow me, I said, but then you know what? If I don't follow them, they're not going to get anywhere. At least if I follow them, they'll get somewhere. And then I got the revelation that when they follow me, they're not following me because I'm following her. She's telling me where I need to go, so I don't have to worry about bringing them wrong. But the point is, if I do nothing, people get left behind. That was an epiphany for me. That was when I said, you know what? Power is neutral. Power is the ability to do. That's what it is. But I had to unlearn all that dominant narrative thing. So, who benefits when we're selfless? The 1%. They want us to. They want us. Because it's so good because it makes you feel good. We've been taught that it makes you feel good, but it leads to burnout. Well, sacrifice. Oh, she's such a sacrifice. Oh, and then that's nice, but it's not healthy for us. We organize out of self-interest. Self-interest means self among others. That's a different kind of concept, which is again counter to the dominant narrative. Because the dominant narrative wants us to be rugged individuals. We do it all alone by ourselves. But when we have self-interest, we have self among others. What is it that Pat is going through that I can resonate with? That's something that I can build power with her. What is something that Oliver is doing? What's something that Jawanza is going through that I can relate to, that I can do this? How did the devil organize people? Think about Jesus in the temptation in the desert.
Made them feel good.
No. I'm thinking, no. How did the devil? Okay, all right, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, made them feel good. Okay, yes, made them feel good. How he made them feel good by what?
Giving them what they want. By sight. He worked by sight.
Wow, we're talking about Jesus now or the devil?
The devil.
Okay, all right. Okay, and I would also like to say that the devil also tried to bribe Jesus. He said, here, I'll give you all these kingdoms, then you follow me. Do we try to bribe people in church? Yeah. There's a railroad magnet in Minnesota that says, what's the difference between congressmen and prostitutes? Prostitutes are more expensive. The devil also treated them with magic. Jump off this cliff. The angels will catch you. Jump off the cliff. Well, we have a candidate that says, jump off the cliff, and by doing that, you can hate the people that are weaker than you, and by doing that, you get power. And then the last one was trying to prove it. Well, prove that you're the Son of God. Prove that you're the Son of God. Turn these loaves into that. How many times do we tell people in church that they have to do something to prove that they're doing it right? We guilt them into behaving a certain way. Christianity is around today because Jesus, James, and Paul built around self-interest. Now, my question to you is, who do you want to organize it like? The devil or Jesus and Paul? All right, so I think that I want to offer a better way to operate, and it's called self-interest. So now we only have a couple of people here, so it's going to be a little bit different. Pat, I'd like for you to, what I'm going to do now is Pat and I are going to have what's called a one-on-one. A one-on-one is not an interview. It's not psychotherapy. It is a chance for me to build relationship, uncover self-interest, develop clarity, and gather information. So the whole thrust of this is that the idea is that I want to know what Pat is about. I'm going to have a conversation with her that puts her front and center. Now, those of you who are here, you're here, but you're not here, so please don't make any comment. Please come, Pat. Please come. Okay. Hey, Pat, it's good to see you again.
Hey.
So what brings you out today?
Trying to find out what's going on.
What do you mean about that?
Well, I heard a lot about this event, and I just wanted to know a little bit more and see the type of people who are involved and see if it's something that I'd like to fit into.
Okay. I know that you're involved with jewelry. You're involved with putting on productions. I've been to one of your productions at the Baptist House of Prayer with the gospel singers and the dinner and all that. How did you get into that?
I had a passion for it. Actually, I was thrown into it.
Okay.
And I realized that I had a passion for it. So I just took it to the next level and took it to the next level until I reached the level where I feel comfortable.
Okay. All right. And where did this come from?
In me.
Okay.
Well, really, my grandmother. My grandmother was an activist, a promoter. She was a doer.
Tell me about her. She sounds like somebody that's important.
Well, yes, my grandmother basically raised me, and she instilled a lot of the values that I have in me. She instilled a lot of the no-nonsense stuff that I have in me. She instilled a lot of the do-you that I have in me. So I am my grandmother.
Interesting. So what are some of those do-you things that you cherish, that you kind of go by?
I own it.
What's that look like?
That looks like I know me, and I'm secure in my skin.
Can you tell me anything else about her?
She was better looking than me. Fancy dresser, classy lady. As I said, she owned it.
Okay. So she seems that she's obviously someone that you looked up to and that you admire, because you said, in essence, I'm looking at her and having a conversation with her right now, right?
Yes.
I'm kind of that with my mother too. She was very much a radical, but because she could not, as a woman, she wasn't allowed to, because the dominant said that women don't do things. One of the things I learned from her is that why not? I don't see why not. That was the thing that drives my activism. But now, tell me now about your. Do you have any siblings?
Yes.
How many?
4.
And are you close with them?
Not really.
Okay. Is there any particular reason?
We're different.
How so?
They're more needy and dependent, where I am more doing it. I'm out there, and they don't understand how I can just take control and move and make things happen, whereas they need guidance.
How does that make you feel?
I'm fine with it.
But how does it make you feel? Do you feel an obligation to help them at all?
Yes, if they need me, all they have to do is call me, and I'll be there.
Okay. You have a loving relationship with Paulette.
Yes.
I just recently met. She started coming to Unity, and first I met her, and then I met you. So I said, "Wait, what's up with that? It's a package. It's a package." So how did you two meet?
We met at Sage.
Okay, all right. And what is Sage?
Sage is an organization for people over 60 who are LGBTQ.
Okay. You said something about your activism. Tell me about that. Where did that come from?
Again, that came from my grandmother.
But can you give me a specific? I know it came from, but what now? What now triggers your activism?
The injustice.
Oh.
The injustice of people.
Okay.
Not just the injustice of the LGBTQ, the alphabet community, right? But the injustice for seniors, the injustice for children, the injustice for African American, just the overall, the way the system is set up, okay, makes me realize that I can't be a part of that. I have to step out, and where I see something is not right, I need to come in with a way to fix it. Not always the violent way, all right? But I think the key to fixing things is communication, making one understand the other and the other understanding the one.
Yes, that's countercultural. That's radical.
Well,
And
yeah.
that's good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Because most people don't like to talk.
And because dominant narrative is told we don't ask people personal questions. It's polite, it's rude, it's that, the other. But the point is, my asking you this obviously is because I want to know you, and I can't know you until I'm vulnerable with you. You're vulnerable with me. That way we can build. Do you have any particular hobbies that you like?
I love to read.
Okay, what kind of any particular genre?
Drama.
Yeah.
I love drama. I love mysteries. You know, I love business.
But sure, that talks to the business side of you, right? Because obviously you have these how long has your production been going on?
Since 2001.
Well, hello.
Yeah.
That's a moment or two, isn't it? So
Yes,
obviously
it is.
you must know something about business.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, but learning every day.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. So what do you see? What do you see yourself? What's your other plan? What are your? Let me see. How do I want to do this? You talked about you're very strong. What are your fears? Do you have any fears?
I don't allow myself that luxury.
Okay.
I think having fear
Okay.
is a luxury.
Okay. How so? Explain that to me, please.
Then you have an excuse to bury your head in the sand and expose your behind.
Okay.
Keeping it
Okay,
real,
all
right?
Okay.
Keeping
all
it
right,
real.
okay,
So
all right.
I can't afford that luxury.
That's inspiring. That's inspiring. So what do you want to do now that you're not doing? Is it something that you would like to be involved in that you're not doing at this moment?
Yeah, I'd like to take my business to another level.
Okay.
That's I think that when a person becomes complacent in wherever they're at and whatever they're doing and not striving to go higher and higher, there's an issue with them. And what I'm not doing is I'm not making that $1 million yet. And
Okay.
not that it's about the money.
Okay.
It's more about saying, as a black, lesbian, same gender loving woman, I got this.
That's important to you. Why?
It's just a personal accomplishment.
Okay. And then in addition to your other accomplishments. Is there anything else you'd like to share with me that I've not asked?
No.
Would you be willing to join into any of the activities that are going on? Are you doing any kind of activism outside of your work? Any like demonstrations, or you can get involved with something like that?
What I do that I feel is working within the community is that I do events where I bring LGBTQ young people in with heterosexual young people, where they realize, as we was talking earlier, no one has two heads. Okay? We're all the same.
Right.
It's just that our sexual preference is different.
Right.
And why should that make a difference to you? As long as I'm not saying, hey baby, sleep with me, then it has no effect on your life. So this way the young people are starting to understand and accept each other. And that's where it begins, because unacceptance is a learned behavior. I used to love that commercial where they put you see a bunch of kids with paper bags over their head and they're all having a great time, and then all of a sudden you take the paper bag off and they start separating from each other. Okay? So my concept is we all need to have a paper bag over our head.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I like that. So your interest in gospel music, where did that come from? Because the one event that I did attend, you had these fantastic singers. In addition to the food, but the singers were just, I was just bopping and
I
rolling.
saw you.
I was just in my thing. I said, yes, Lord, hallelujah. So where did that happen? Thank you, Pat, so much for sharing that with me. How do you feel?
I feel fine.
Okay. Did I make you uncomfortable at all?
No.
Okay. Is this something that you could do with someone?
Absolutely.
Yes, because the whole idea of this is I want you, so many workshops, you go to something and you get all this paper, but I want you to leave here today being able to do this because this is an active revolution that's as simple as having a conversation. Did I build a relationship?
Yes.
Did I uncover self-interest?
Yes.
Did I develop clarity?
Yes.
Did I gather information?
Yes.
Who did most of the talking?
She did.
Yes. That's the thing. She did, I hope, 70, the ideal is 70% of it. But the idea is that because people never listen to us. People say, how you doing? And before you can say anything, they're how you doing? And they're looking over here already. So, but then again, it's not them, it's the dominant narrative dissuades us from getting close. Because when we get close, we get powerful, and they know that. So what I'd like to do now is for you all to, actually, Jawanza, I guess you're going to have to stop recording for a moment because I would like for you and, wait a minute, because, okay, very good, okay, all right, very good.
Oh no, I want to go.
Okay, all right, very good, so, come please. You decide who's going to do what.
Okay, well, I've done one-on-one training, so you should do it.
Well, since you've done it, can you
Lead it?
Why not? I'm open.
Well, you know what? Whichever you feel comfortable. Because our whole idea is that I modeled it so that you can go now. There's no right or wrong way to do this, so I don't expect you to do like me. But the point is, build a relationship, under self-interest, your love, care, and gather information. Go.
Okay. My name is Jawanza.
Oliver.
Oliver. Pleasure. So, the reason I came to this conference today is because I wanted to support Reginald and I wanted to hear more about activism. So I'm curious as to why you came.
I'm here due to the fact of my religious belief, and I find myself to be a very spiritual person, even though I'm not always in church. I know that God dwells in me, and I know that He loves me no matter what. And due to the fact that I've had bad experiences in church, I came up in Unity Fellowship when it started at 208 at the Gay and Lesbian Center with Zachary. And then we went to St. Mary's, that was downtown Brooklyn, then a Unity on Atlantic Avenue. And then I was going through some religious problems of my own due to the fact that my mother is saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Spirit. And I really believed that I was putting shame on her by being out and present, where now I was in a media high stream, so I stepped back out of the rafters a little bit. So when I saw that they was having this thing about religion, it called to me. That's why I'm here.
So, obviously, you should feel safe to tell me no, or you don't want to talk about something, because, remember this is and, the one-on-one process is really, it's an intimate, conversation really about getting to know each other, so, because this is a workshop, sorry to do that, but just because it's a workshop, and there's people who you don't know watching.
I'm very comfortable now.
Okay, so I'm curious as to how the feeling of, embarrassing your mom impacted you. Like, what did that do to you?
Well, it just left a burden on me. It's like I stood in the closet. I just didn't want to embarrass her. She was very active in her church. And I just felt that, I was shaming her. And because I love my mother, I didn't want to do that. But what ended up happening was she outed me. So I was hiding for nothing. And she was the one that told me who I was. And then from that day on, I walked with my head up high. And I knew that that was a true sign that, God loved me.
That. So, do you do anything, not like your faith? Like, do you? Because I feel like this is a thing that a lot of people go through. Like, especially they come from religious backgrounds.
Yes.
Who end up being LGBTQ or same gender loving, or just not cisgender. All these different parts of the dominant narrative. Do you do things that help other folks? Or do you use your faith in terms of activism or anything like that? Or do you?
Yeah, so what I'm into now, I've been trying to start my own organization called FADE, which is Family, Friends, Allies Against Discrimination Everywhere. So I go out and I do talk in a religious aspect and to let them know that God do love them and that he said that whoever believes in him shall be saved. So I try to install that into them and let them know that they cannot listen to what people say. You have to listen to what's in your heart. So usually sometimes in my house I have offered people to come in for a little Bible study where we sit there and we try to dissect the Bible to the best of our ability. Not that we're putting it in more favor to what we believe in, but to try to get down to the truth. So I just try to push them to let them know that, you know, you can be who you are and serve God at the same time.
Right. So it seems to me that you really care about one, the truth, and people being able to feel the love of God, being fully themselves.
Yes.
Like, and you telling me everything. Like, you're making it very easy.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason why the term whosoever believes in me, it leaves no room for straight, gay, Jew, whoever. And my mother looked at me and said, you are a whoever. So to thine own self be true. And I've been living that life ever since. And I have to talk with people because I see people, even in today's society, that will not come out of the closet because of religious beliefs. And, you know, for me, you know, I can't judge them, but I can give them a little solitude and let them understand that, listen, even if you don't feel that this person loves you, as a brother, as a sister, I love you. And at any point in time you need to talk to me. We can go to church together, we can study together, but you have to understand that it's inside you. It's what you see when you look in that mirror, and it shouldn't be about how other people are looking at you. And when you become whole within yourself, you will walk by faith and not by sight.
Wow, that is beautiful. And what it seems like to me that your self-interest is because you're living your life and you are securing your faith. And I think so. What I'm hearing is that you aren't so much concerned about your own individual self now, but more so concerned about others and them being able to, you know, have this similar realizations or, you know, just or refuge in faith that you have, like in helping people be able to realize that that's a possibility.
Well, it's not really about the faith that I have. It's about believing in something that can help them to guide one. You know, take one, teach one. Whatever your belief is. If you want to believe in Buddha, believe in Buddha. If you want to believe in, if you don't want to have a religion and you're just spiritual, then do that. But whatever is going to make you shine and be kind to other people, eliminate prejudice and discrimination, and it feels good to you, I advise you to do it.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm a liar.
So, what about you?
Wait, okay. All right, so that was, okay, very good. So unpack that just a little bit.
Okay.
So
Unpack, like, what I learned? Or...
no, ask her how she feels.
Oh, yeah.
What was, yeah.
How do you feel?
Well, it feels good to be able to express this and for people to hear it. And again, documentation is very important to me. And what we need to do is to do more documentation about what's going on in our community and to know that we all have just one head. You understand?
Right.
And that, you know, they can't just look at us due to the fact of our sexual orientation or our colors.
Yeah.
You know, we all, if you not cut me, do I not bleed? So I feel very good about this because, you know, for the first time in a long time, I'm able to be free from myself.
Well,
And I don't know if you understand that, but I was my worst enemy.
I think I follow for sure because, I mean, well, one, I also believe deeply that we have to like tell our own stories because perhaps the reasons that we have to contend with the things that we do sometimes is because people telling our stories are not us.
Yes.
You know, and they don't have the same, you know, circumstances or configuration or worldview or faiths or gender identity, sexuality. So, one, I think faces. What's the name of the organization again?
It's going to be FADE.
FADE.
Family, Friends, Allies Against Discrimination Everywhere.
That sounds amazing.
Yes.
So, I don't know how much further to unpack this.
Okay. All right. So, how do you feel?
I feel good. I feel like, one, I learned a lot about an organization or a coming organization that's really important. But also, more deeply, I learned that, well, I learned a lot about you, like, real quick. like I was able to see, like obviously, like, there's much more life that you could share. But just, like, when you share, like, very intimate, like, because if you said you love your mom,
Yes.
that tells you something. And you gave me the background that you come from, like, a religious, spiritual background, and still very much are. And then, you know, like, talked about, like, feeling like you may be embarrassing her, just because of, like, her faith and maybe her, like, station in the church. So that just tells me a lot about the configurations of how your family may have been configured, at least in a sense, from a religious sense. Like, I learned a lot about it. Like, I mean, and I also learned a lot about, like, how, because I'm from Texas, so, like, how communities, like, can be very similar, and how, cause I have a very similar, like, beginning, at least. So it's not, I think it's, like, very different, but at the same time, like, it doesn't sound foreign to me. So I feel closer to you. I feel like you're more approachable now because I'm like, okay, well, I know that they have had some kind of experience in life that I can relate to.
Very good. On that note, switch roles, please.
Okay.
Oh, Lord.
So again, I'm Oliver.
Jawanza.
Okay.
You
So
got 10 minutes.
I really would like to know again what brought you here.
Oh, okay. So, I came to this conference because, one, I work at the organization called Vocal New York, where Reginald is a leader, and like, first of all, the LGBT faith leaders of African descent inspires me just as an idea in and of itself, just because I don't have, like, a very structured religious practice. However, I do believe in God, and I think that perhaps, like, I feel like the longest love affair of my life has been with God. Like, since the beginning. Like, but it's always, like, a back and forth. And it's not really God leading. It's more like me, like, no. You know, like, and I think that's because not of God, which is what, so in 2010, when I became a Christian, I was like, I realized then that the God that was troubling me was not God. It was people, dogma, like how people wanted to configure God, like how people wanted to, like, even like gendering God for me. Even long before I had, like, a gender political analysis, I was like, God is just God. And when I was in university, there was this Reverend Jenny Norris Lane. She said one day, she said, God will not turn God's back on you. And I was like, that is like, it spoke to me because I was like, because I think by, like, gendering God, like, giving God this, like, patriarchal configuration is what allowed all of the reasons why my experience of organized religion to be negative. So, like, what I'm saying is, I think because of these very human characteristics that the church and people, in, not all church, but not every church, I know that, but, like, overwhelmingly, it seems, and I should speak then about the church I know, the Baptist church in Beaumont, Texas, the one that I went to, I can say that, they, like, you know, it just has a very, like, hyper masculine, very, like, wrath of God as opposed to the love of God disposition, and that did not. I don't like that. It doesn't speak to my spirit, and I don't want to go to church and feel bad. Like, I'd rather go to church and feel good. It's not to say that people are not allowed to, like, you know, have their beliefs in the way that they want to practice, and the way that they want to interpret scripture or interpret God's will. I just think, for me, I think that God is love, which is another reason I wanted to come to this workshop, because the title is that because God is love, how do I anchor my activism? And also, I am like very much committed and in like this movements for social justice, like through multiple avenues, through HIV and AIDS, through homelessness, through mass incarceration, all the stuff that Vocal works on and more, really. And sometimes I think, what is my moral compass, like, or what is the thing that makes me know, like, naturally that a lot of the stuff that's happening, that happens in our society, in our world, is wrong. I just personally believe that it has to come from God or something like it, because I've always known, like, always, in the same way that I've always been, like, not straight, like, I've always known, like, even before I had a sexuality, so, like, there's, like, or any concept of sexuality, so that's how I know that these things are not solely, if anything, the result of nurture, or because, yeah, it, like, there's definitely, like, I feel like a natural, even if you don't believe in absolute good or bad, or you know, like, because I don't really like binaries either. I don't really like the idea that there's an absolute evil and there's an absolute good. I just think that it's about how we treat each other. Like, and also, I read recently, or I heard recently, or someone said, because we often say colloquially, like, you know, treat others how you want to be treated. But then someone told me, treat others how they want to be treated. So, and then that connects to, like, my emphasis on storytelling and, like, how we have to tell our own stories. Because if we don't, then someone can come in and say, this is what they wanted. So, I came here, but I met Dr. William Perry, and I just always wanted affirming churches. Like, I even joined a church in the Bronx. I tried, and this was very recently. I was like, this is the last time I tried a church. And I was like, you know, I'm not about to come here and, like, literally would call, like, it was a very small church. It was like me and one other person, and we were both, like, queer. So they would often call us out, like, on that. And I'm like, there's a whole world of things that, even if you believe that is not the best way to live one's life, it just felt like they were picking and choosing, like, how, and this is my experience for every church that I've been to. Like, I mean, I haven't tried many affirming churches in New York City just because at this point in my life, I don't think that's necessarily what I need. But I oftentimes find myself in churches. It's really bizarre. Like, and that's another thing. Like, it just feels like I feel like God is, like, just not leaving me alone. Like the other night, I really wanted to go to this panel on solitary confinement because these things matter to me because, like I have family in prison, and, like, I have a whole generation of cousins who all went to prison, and I just began to see how it wasn't about individual behavior and why they ended up where they were, or, like, why it was difficult for them to do other things, you know. But the dominant narrative made me believe at the time that, oh, well, they're making bad decisions, so, you know, they are gonna suffer the consequences. But that's, again, going back to this binary, and then again, ultimately going back to this very structured, rigid, you know, like, patriarchal, oppressive world view that's spiritual. And so, like, if people are informed by a religious doctrine that is inherently oppressive, then those same folks are the folks that are setting up the dominant narrative, the same folks that are white supremacists mostly, and the same folks that are making our laws. Like, so I feel like it's important that faith leaders, and it's not just the Christian church either. So to clarify, I know it's plenty of other faiths that are doing the same kind of like, and again, not overwhelmingly the whole faith, but like in general, mainstream kind of organized religion. It's just, it bothers me because I know that they held so much power because of their concentration of money and the number of people that that's how organized religion functions. It is about like collecting resources and sharing them among the people, and then these people have power, and then they lobby, and then they can lobby against my life, you know? In some places, successfully, very successfully. I mean, in here too. So, whenever I see that there's an organization like LGBTQ, or LGBT faith leaders of African descent, doing the work on a community level and with other faith leaders to try to like have cultural or social shifts, or at least allow the space for those conversations to happen. Because I don't think that they're necessarily trying to say everything that I may want to say, but this was important to me. One, to support Reginald, but also to hear what people are talking about, like, or to hear what faith leaders are thinking, where they're coming from, or what informs their beliefs, and especially how LGBTQ identified folks who stay in the church or who remain spiritual, who remain faithful, amidst a world that's not safe for us.
Thank you.
So, how are you feeling?
Like I'm scattered, like I'm talking about a whole world of things, but I don't know, hopefully I was clear, but I feel good. I feel good.
No, you very articulate, and you had a lot of great points, and I'm very thankful that you shared, because it seemed like that you just opened up and you got a lot off your chest. It seemed like that you had a message to give, and you gave it, and I really appreciate that.
So portrayed Oliver, is this something that you can do now? Actually, you can actually start doing it in your everyday conversation as much as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what you do. When you have a conversation,
Yes.
it's when it's just kind of casual. Do it then. I find myself when I do it, if I have time, I say, well, how do you feel? How does that feel? How did that come? But before we do, I need now you to do me.
Yes.
All right.
Sounds good.
Oh my God.
So we have 10 minutes.
You might need a copy of this.
And they said, well, why don't you want a black and yellow? And she said, I don't see why not. And that was her whole thing. She always taught me that there's no such thing as men and women's work. If there's something to be done and you can do it, do it. So I always had this confrontational or questioning that someone tells me, well, wait a minute, why not? Well, I've been some people say rebellious, but I mean, I'm just asking the question. I mean, who said? So the Gay Liberation Front, this was somewhere was like in 1969. So in Kansas, we were getting together to do this, and of all the people in the organization, I was the only one that could actually be present, because before that I gone to my mother and said, Mama, I'm gay. And she said, I kind of thought so. But then she said that I never taught you who to love, I just taught you to love. And the zinger was that no matter who you are and what you do, I will always love you, always be my son. So with that on my back, I was able to be the face of the Gay Liberation Front at the University of Kansas. We sued the university because they would not give us space in the student union. And the student union is funded by student activity fees. My gay dollars, my gay and my black dollars, they didn't give it. We lost the case, but William Kunstler, a very famous civil rights lawyer at the time, appealed our case. We lost the case. However, the very next year we had funding and space. But during that time, I wrote op-eds in Newsweek. I appeared all over the place. I wanted my mother to hear it from me hear that what I was doing for me instead of somebody else because I didn't know how they were going to spin it. So with that, I became, that was my first taste of being righteously indignant and having something, and have something come from it. So since then, yeah.
Wait, do you have one specific cause that you champion, or you just a man of the people?
I've had several. The first one was the 30% rent cap because that affected me. It changed my life. I was evicted from my apartment of 12 years. I had to leave my cats behind, and leaving them behind, and knowing that I wasn't going to come back because usually when I said, "I'll see you later, babies," they're thinking, "What are they going to think when I don't come back?" And the reason I was evicted was because of a law that was written that did not take me into consideration. Who pays 70% of their income from rent? Why? But because of a loophole in the law, so that the 30% rent cap was my baby at that time. Right now, my baby is HIV criminalization. You care about HIV criminalization, you just don't know it yet. Currently, in 31 states, you can be arrested for non-disclosure if you have sex with someone and you're HIV positive, regardless of whether you are on medication, regardless of anything. It's for non-disclosure. It's not even for transmission. There are people behind bars right now who are in jail because of non-disclosure, not because of transmission. Some of these people, there's one man in particular, and I can use his name, I've used it before. When he told me his story, his name was Robert Suttle. He came in and told his story about how his lover and he had a contentious relationship or whatever. They ended badly. The lover went into his job, and the police went into Robert's job and arrested him. Robert spent 6 months in jail and is now currently listed as a sex offender. No transmission of HIV, none of this. So the point is, the laws were written back in 1986 when we did not really know a lot about what was going on. But the point is that the law, HIV is a mental health issue and not a criminal justice issue. So it grieves me because there's another man, Perry Washington, who is in Oregon State, who's serving 25 years. He used the condom. He's undetectable. The woman did not want to press charges, but the district attorney did it anyway. He's right now behind bars. At the first HIV is Not a Crime conference, we did a conference call with him, and we heard him to speak to us from the jail. We're thinking, here he is in there. And there was this another young man that we found about at this conference who was in Texas, who committed suicide because he thought nobody cared anything about him. He was in solitary confinement. And then there was another mother there whose son was also suffering the same thing. So it's like, these things it could be me. That was my first thing. This could be me. I always say, I'm HIV positive, so the person can make informed consent, because if you're not for me, no problem. You're not wasting my time, which is precious, and I'm not wasting yours. But the point is, regardless of that, and the fact that I've been non-infectious since 2003, if someone says to me, he didn't disclose, they ask me, are you HIV positive? That is enough basis for possible incarceration, possible action. So that ain't right.
But on that note, do you feel full disclosure should be something that is a part of any relationship? If you and I are going to have a relationship.
If you and I are going to have a relationship, yes, I speak. That's why I say I always disclose. I always disclose.
Yes.
I always, even on the online sites, which I'm on, the very first thing, pause. The very first thing is pause. So if they can't get past that, it's okay, because you're not wasting their time, and most important, you're not wasting mine.
Right, and you're giving the person an informed decision.
Exactly.
Very
Now, but see, and that's all the point, that even though I do that, he could come back and say, well, he didn't tell me. And it's a he said. But the fact that I'm HIV positive is enough to get it. Doesn't take into consideration, what about the other person's responsibility? We are consenting adults.
That's right.
If you could tell me anything you want to, but I'm going to do what I need to protect myself. I don't care what you tell me. I don't care what it's my responsibility as an adult, since I'm going to engage in this behavior, to do what I need to do to protect myself. So that's where I'm coming. That's why I say HIV is a public health issue. And if people do it on purpose, and the fact that they do is rarely, but those are the ones you hear about in the news. That people do it, they're deliberate. They need help. It's like the whole criminal justice system. Most of those people need help. They don't need to be. They don't need behind bars. They need help. So that is my thing. I want to see a repeal of the laws, not the modernization, not this. I want to see a repeal. That's my long-term vision. I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime, but that's my long-term vision. There should be no laws on the books about HIV.
Very good. You sound very passionate about what you do. So I could take it to say that you are a passionate and committed person in any cause that you take. Is that true?
Yes.
Where do you get your passion and commitment from?
My love of God. God is passion. God is the source of my strength. And when my spirit tells me that something is not right, I act on that. Whether anybody else sees it or not, I realize that, you know what? Whether anybody else sees it or not, I'm going to say this because I see it. God is showing me something, so I do it, and I feel the presence of God saying. Because there are times, I guess I've been arrested only twice, and it was both for civil disobedience. But there have been other times that they've asked me, "Do you want to do it?" And I said no. I said no because it wasn't that I was afraid. It was just that it didn't resonate with me. But the thing about being evicted resonated with me. The thing about the governor not giving money for people who are low income with the AIDS, not getting funding, that resonated with this. And no, that's not right. So I said, you know what? I'm going to put my life on the line. And I'm going to do what I need to do to stand up for these people.
Very good. Let me ask you a question. Being you identify as a they.
Gender non-conforming. Yes.
Okay. Give me an instance where being gender non-conformative as well as being HIV positive, an instance where you felt that you were being convicted.
Convicted? How do you mean by that?
Someone came against you, or you were denied something, or
I can't ever say that I've ever experienced anything blatant, overt. I've never experienced anything like that. Because as I come as me. You know, I come as me, and now, like I said, I voluntarily say that now these are my pronouns.
How many programs do you actually head?
How many? What do you mean?
Social active.
How many campaigns am I involved in?
Are you involved in?
Several. But see, the point is that I have to be careful because I can't be everywhere at the same time. I said, Lord, what you want me to do today? Mm-hmm. Sometimes there'll be 2 or 3 things. Close Rikers Island, mass incarceration, the drug thing that's going on in the Philippines with Duarte killing people, the thing that's going on with Black Lives Matter, the thing, they're all, I mean, if it's social injustice, I'm there. Because Jesus would be there. It's whatever, because Jesus was a radical. You know, when Jesus came in and turned 2,000 years of teaching around, he challenged the dominant narrative. He disrupted business as usual when he went to the temple and said, get out of there. But you know what? He messed with their money. That disrupted business as usual, and that's what we do now. When we go down and shut down the street, we disrupt business as usual because we're messing with their money. Local New York, I hired the offices of Wells Fargo. I think maybe last summer, because Wells Fargo is one of the companies that invest in prisons for profit. So here we are. So we went into their lobby for about 15 minutes. We held court there. We had a little thing, and the police didn't come. But the point is, we were able to disrupt this business as usual. Then we took it out to the street and did it. So this is what, So that's what, like I said, when I first heard about this course, Jesus Community Organizing, it was with something called the National People's Action, which is not part of the curriculum. It was an extra. I went into that and I saw Jesus in a whole completely different light. And I think about it that he's radical. But now Unity Fellowship is also radical in that we say God is love and love is for everyone. That completely goes against everything that the church has said. But that's our Jesus moment now, and we are that movement, that revolution that says God is love and love is for everyone. It's a whole new narrative. And what Jawanza said about, we have to tell our own stories. Don't write about me. Don't write about me. I will tell my story. We have to tell our stories because it's our narrative. That narrative was not written for us. In fact, that narrative was written actually to destroy us or kill us. That's the only reason it exists. But yet we're here. So now it's up to us to rewrite a narrative that fits for us.
When, God forbid, but we all have to do it. When you leave this world, what is the one thing that you want the person that speaks about you to say? What is the one thing that you want them to say?
That my life was not in vain. That every day, confirmation that my life is not in vain. Things that people say to me that inspired them, that helped them, that changed their lives. That I get to hear it. That I get to hear it. So that's it. If I just knowing that I helped somebody, that somebody was blessed through me, that someone got something. That's what that is.
Amen. Amen.
All right.
Amen.
Okay. All right.